In this episode, we talk about the challenges that India will face in trying to keep up with the rising milk demand. We also talk about Sudha Murty being nominated for the Rajya Sabha. But first, we talk about the Biju Janata Dal allying with the BJP. Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. After 15 years of first breaking their decade-long alliance with the BJP, the Biju Janata Dal, led by Odisha Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik, is all set to ally with the NDA for the upcoming Lok Sabha and Assembly elections. And this is despite the fact that both parties had been principal rivals during these 15 years, and the BJP cadre remains uncertain about this move. In this segment, we are joined by Indian Express's Sujit Bisoyi about why the parties are coming together. Sujit, before we talk about anything else, could you tell us why the BJD and the BJP had parted ways back in 2009?
Well, Shashank, as you know, the BJD, when it was formed following death of one of the most loved leader in Odisha, Biju Patnaik, after his demise, some of his followers, or known as Biju followers, they formed one regional outfit called Biju Janata Dal and named after Biju Patnaik on 26th of December 1997. And it was a new outfit, some new leaders. There were many limitations like resources. Then they had no pan-Odisha organization. So they joined hands with the BJP. At that time, the National Party was also looking to expand its base in Odisha because Janata Dal and Congress were the two dominant political forces in the late 90s. So the alliance was formed between the BJD, a new outfit, and BJP. That continued for around 11 years till 2019. So if you ask the reason why BJD parted ways with BJP in 2009, we can say by the time the alliance was broke off by BJD in 2009, BJD was a party of around 11 years. And Naveen Patnaik has also established, he has made his own image of a strong regional leader. So he wanted to basically come out of the shadow of a national party. He wanted to expand the base of his party across Odisha. He was looking at his future and the future of the Biju Janata Dal actually. That was basically the key reason. And just months before the alliance was broke up, there was a communal riot in Kandhamal district of Odisha that claimed around 38 lives. And basically he blamed the BJP of aggravating the riots, and the Kandhamal riot was the reason that led the relationship between BJP and BJD to be soured actually.
Right, and talking about the BJD and Naveen Patnaik coming out of the shadow of the BJP, he's done that pretty successfully. He has now been the chief minister for over 24 years. So what is the reason that now, after 15 years, these parties have come together?
Well, we can say after BJD severed tie with the BJP that the saffron party was literally decimated in Odisha, most of the part. It faced a setback and its vote share was nosedived significantly in 2009 election, months after the alliance was broke up. One of the reasons why BJP could not succeed after, parting ways with BJD, because from 1998 till 2009, when they were with alliance with the BJD, they didn't bother to create their own cadres. And that could be the reason why in 2009, BJP won only 6 seats and its vote share was reduced to 15 or 16%. In 2009 Lok Sabha election, they could not able to open their account in Odisha even. But we can say they partially succeeded in 2019 by winning 8 of total 21 Lok Sabha seats in Odisha and improved their tally from just they won in 2014. And in Assembly, they won 23 seats. They not just win 23 seats, but they pushed the Congress to the third position and BJP became the major, principal opposition party in Odisha. So by the time they are seeing that their acceptance because of Modi factor, and after winning the 2019 election, they significantly tried to cement their base across Odisha.
Okay, so considering that, it makes sense why the BJP would want to ally with the Biju Janata Dal. But why is the Biju Janata Dal agreeing to this alliance?
There are two reasons, if we can say. One is political and another, the BJD leadership that held meeting with their senior leaders. They tried to send one narrative to the masses why they are going back to the NDA alliance. they said that by the time 2036, when Orissa will complete 100 years of its statehood, they have to achieve several milestones and they want to see Orissa as a developed state. And for that, they need the support of center. This, the narrative BJD wants to send, we can say that could be the plea. But that is not the exact reason. There is certain political compulsions. Like BJD now, we can say it's on a transition mode. Because there could be leadership transition in the party in next 1-2 years maybe. So they don't want anyone to revolt or to question when such things will happen, they don't want any kind of trouble, or they want basically a smooth transition. So they consider if they'll have a blessings or they will have partner like BJP, it may ensure them a smooth sail. Otherwise, I don't think any reason why BJD will go, because they have the strong base in Orissa. Even they will fight on their own, they will win maximum seats in both Assembly and Lok Sabha. So that could be the political compulsion. But the BJP is trying to send the message that they want to transform Odisha as a developed state by 2036. For that, they need the support of the center. For that, they said, for greater interest of Odisha, officially they are saying for greater interest of Odisha, they want to take the next political move actually. They want to take this move.
And you write that at this time, the BJP cadre is very concerned about this move. One, because they think they don't need the Biju Janata Dal to come to power in the state, and two, because over the years they were the ones who had been criticizing the party on the ground, right?
Yeah, because for the past 5 years, BJP leaders are fighting against the BJD on the ground. And most of the BJD leaders who even have joined the BJP to take revenge against the BJD leadership. So they are opposing because they said they have the strength to take on and they can form government on their own. Then why to go ahead in partner with the BJD? And they feel that if they'll again go ahead with the BJP, the regional party may again dominate them, because they have cadres almost. The situation in 1998 and 2014 there is a big difference, because BJP has developed their strength in almost all constituencies. So they are confident, but the central leaders, of course, they have left the decision to their central leaders, and they said they will abide by the decision of the central leaders.
And Sujit, talk about what the coming together of these two parties, the BJP, which is a strong national party, and BJD, which is one of the strongest regional parties. What does this alliance mean for the opposition India bloc?
Well, as far as India bloc is concerned, I can say it will have no impact in Orissa, because Congress, they have been pushed to the brink. Their organization has been decimated. Their vote share has been reduced to less than 15%, and their seats has also been reduced. They pushed to the third position in Orissa in 2019. So as far as India alliance is concerned, the BJD-BJP alliance, it will have no impact in Orissa especially, because Congress is a very, poor force, we can say. They have weak organization strength in Orissa. But BJD and BJP will be formidable alliance, and they will win most of the seat. Why? Because there is a reason. BJD on its own has vote share of around 40% in almost every 21 Lok Sabha constituencies and 147 Assembly constituencies, whereas BJP also has their more than 30% vote share in almost all constituencies. So that will make a formidable alliance basically. Even if some people may not agree with them, even if all the people may not vote them, so they may able to get around 50% vote, what they used to get during 1998 to 2009.
So in that sense, it appears likely that with this alliance, the NDA has secured Odisha. But at this time, how has the Congress party reacted to this move?
Well, it's too late for Congress to take benefit of the alliance. But yes, Congress, after especially the new Orissa in charge, Ajay Kumar took over the reins of Congress, he was quite aggressively trying to push the narrative that BJD and BJP are same. Accordingly, AICC President Mallikarjun Kharge, who addressed a public rally here in Orissa in the month of January, he also tried to send that message that Congress is the only alternate force in Orissa, because BJD and BJP are equal. Even Rahul Gandhi during his Orissa leg of Bharat Yatra his sole focus was that BJD and BJP are running partner government and Congress is the only alternate.
और ये आप याद रखिए कि बीजेपी और बीजेडी एक ही चीज है. यही बात तेलंगाना में उठी थी. वहां पे भी तेलंगाना के मुख्यमंत्री की पूरी मदद बीजेपी करती थी. दिल्ली में उनकी कठपुतलियां वहां उनकी मदद करती थी। हमने तेलंगाना में BRS को उखाड़ के फेंक दिया। वही काम हम यहां BJD के साथ करने जा रहे हैं।
But apart from trying to make a narrative, they are very weak on the ground because most of their leaders have either been migrated to BJD or now BJP. So their organization is weak and they don't have adequate time even because elections will be announced anytime soon and it will be held within 1-2 months maximum. So Congress cannot benefit other than some conscious voters if they will vote thinking that BJD and BJP are same and they will vote for Congress. Otherwise, I don't think Congress will take any benefit. But yes, even yesterday they are saying that both the parties have forced this alliance to loot Odisha's natural resources to serve the interest of capitalists, and Congress as the alternate will fight against the two leaders, but it's too late for them. Maybe they'll fight them in future, but not in 2024 election. I don't see Congress can take much benefit out of this BJD-BJP alliance.
And next we talk about India's rising milk demand. According to the government's latest household consumption expenditure survey, which was released last month, milk emerged as India's number one food item. Among all the things to eat, milk was the one that people spent the most money on. And this happened for the first time in the country's history.
Both in urban and rural areas,
That's Harish Damodaran, Indian Express's rural affairs editor.
And something like, of the total, say, money we spend on food, about something like 18% of the total food expenditure, the average consumption is on milk and milk products. So I think what they have estimated is something like an average rural person spends about 314 rupees, per month, which comes to something like, if you take a family of 5, it comes to about, say, roughly something like around 52 rupees per family per day, in rural areas. And in urban areas, it comes to something like 78 rupees, So 78 rupees a family is spending just on milk, which is very significant,
And the reason this is significant is because milk is rich in calories and protein, and people have been consuming it more than cereals, pulses and sugar combined, and at a time when milk prices have been rising.
So on the one hand, we are seeing more the consumption of milk rising, not only milk, but also egg, fish and meat. On the other hand, cereals is falling, sugar is falling and pulses is also falling. So, which means there is a clear, distinct preference among Indian families for animal protein rather than plant protein, So, it's more of milk, eggs, fish and meat rather than pulses.
And Harish says that this will have huge policy implications and will put a lot more pressure on dairy farmers. For example, with this rise in milk consumption, the dairy farmer will now have to compete with the poultry farmer and other meat producers for the feed they provide to cattle.
See, as you know, milk is basically nothing but your cows and buffaloes are basically processing, grass and feed, and they are converting it into milk. Now, where do you get feed from? Feed is from maize. Feed is from protein concentrates. It could be soybean oil cake. It could be rapeseed meal. It could be cottonseed oil cake. It could be groundnut. Right? And there is same competition between cows and buffaloes and poultry and fish. So there's going to be more competition within the livestock industry, sector for scarce feed resources. So I think this is going to be a huge challenge because on the one hand, as we said, the demand is increasing. Demand for not only milk, but also other animal products. So when your incomes rise, your demand for proteins goes up, and in the Indian case, it's very clear that it's animal proteins and animal fat where the demand is increasing. So it's going to be a challenge to meet this demand.
And the challenge will not only be to supply the right quantity, but also to supply it in a way that milk prices don't continue to rise.
There are two reasons why our milk prices have gone up. If you look at, for example, right now I'm paying about, 66 rupees for a liter of full cream milk. 2 years back, it was about 58 rupees. 5 years back, it was 52 rupees. So from 52 to 66 rupees, in the case of full cream milk. And if it is stone milk, It has gone up from 42 to 54. So that's a very substantial rise. Okay. So this rise is happening for two reasons. One is demand, which is what we are talking about, because Indians, we love milk. Doodh pita hai India. So that happens because milk is a superior food. So one reason is demand. The other is precisely what I mentioned earlier, the cost of feed. So both because of higher costs and also because there is growing demand, So I think that's going to be a huge challenge for policy makers in the days to come, How do we ensure that the feed costs don't go up and how do production costs don't go up,
Harish says that India's White Revolution, the landmark dairy development program, which began in 1960, has been very successful in terms of increasing procurement and marketing.
Your dairy cooperatives have done a fantastic job connecting the rural producer to the urban consumer. And I would say in the last 20 years, even the private sector, especially in the South, you have many private sector dairies. So the White Revolution has been very successful with procurement and marketing. But they have not done much work in genetics, improving the productivity per cow. How do we increase the yields per cow? So the work on breeding hasn't been great, unlike in the case of crop agriculture.
Which is what India witnessed during its Green Revolution. New varieties of crops were developed so that they are resistant to disease and more responsive to fertilizers.
But in animal agriculture, especially in the case of milk, I would say that there has not been enough importance given to, genetics and crop yields, Like, for example, in the case of poultry, for example, the poultry industry has done a great job. The poultry people will talk of feed conversion ratio. How do we increase, when I give a little bit of poultry feed, how much of weight is added to the animal? Whereas in the dairy industry, we have not given importance to breeding. It's the same old crossbred cows, but nothing. And same thing, even nutrition. Like nutrition is very important, right? What fodder you give, what feed you give, It's only now that Amul is talking in terms of setting up a total mixed ration plant. Whereas otherwise, I think all dairies generally were just giving feed and nothing was done on the genetics. And this is precisely the time when we have to work on how do we reduce the cost of production of milk.
He says one problem right now is that we have too many cattle in proportion to the amount of milk they are producing.
See, India, unfortunately, we don't have a policy on culling of animals. India has too many animals. We have about 30 crore cows and buffaloes. And whereas actually these numbers should be less. We should be producing more milk from less animals. When we have too many animals and we don't have enough fodder and feed going around, So ideally, we should be having less number of cows and buffaloes. And that's also good from an environmental perspective, because about methane emission and those kind of things, So one thing which I think needs to be done is use of sexed semen.
Now, sex semen is a specially processed semen of bulls from which Y chromosomes are either removed through a sorting process or destroyed altogether. With only X chromosomes remaining, the process can ensure that a female calf is born with up to 90% accuracy.
Because today's calf is tomorrow's cow. So I think definitely we need to ensure that the semen that is being used, in artificial insemination, etc., should be sex sorted. I think that is one thing which we need to ensure. And the other is, of course, how do we ensure that even this artificial insemination is being done properly? So probably the dairies need to work on producing a good nucleus herd of good buffaloes and cows, Like, for example, if I have a good cow today, at the most that cow in its natural, this thing can only produce, say, 6-7 calves, right? And who can be good milkers. But now through, embryo transfer technology, through IVF, in vitro fertilization, etc. With a single cow, you can produce about, say, 50 calves, in a year. So I think these are the kind of things we need to now really work on.
And even besides methods like sex semen, IVF and embryo transfer, Harish says there is also a need to improve animal nutrition.
Today, most farmers basically just give concentrates, which is basically, as I said, from rapeseed or from cottonseed. And this is very expensive, because as I said, your feed costs 22 rupees a kg. So that's too high. So probably we need to look at ways of, delivering crude protein. I mean, ultimately it is crude protein which is getting converted into milk in a more efficient and in a more cost-effective way. And probably the way to do it is by getting farmers to grow fodder. And then there are some new hybrids, hybrids of fodder, with very high yields, and also containing good protein content, So I think these are the things which need to be done, So I think dairies need to work closer with farmers, Something similar to what the poultry industry has done, In the case of broiler, etc., the companies like Suguna and Venky's and all have done a brilliant job in increasing production. Whereas our farmers, our dairy farmers are still, our production is too low, The yields are too low.
And what is also concerning is that at a time when milk demand is rising, the government doesn't seem to be doing enough in this area.
Say the Indian Council of Agricultural Research is hardly working on fodder, hardly working even on cattle breeding, on buffaloes, on animal genetics, because our whole thing is still on, too much of bias towards crop agriculture as opposed to animal agriculture. Whereas we should know that Indians today are wanting to have more eggs, more milk, more fish. So probably it requires some kind of a reorientation and probably, end this bias against animal farming.
And in the end, we talk about the 73-year-old author, philanthropist, and former chairperson of Infosys Foundation Sudha Murthy, who last week was nominated to the Rajya Sabha. Making the announcement on the International Women's Day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that her presence in the upper house is a powerful testament to our Nari Shakti, exemplifying the strength and potential of women in shaping our nation's destiny. Now, Murthy is a prolific writer in both English and Kannada and has 30 books and more than 200 titles to her credit, and has received numerous awards, including the Padma Bhushan in 2023, the Padma Shri in 2006, and the Lifetime Achievement by Crossword Book Awards in 2018. She is also the wife of Infosys co-founder Narayan Murthy, and their daughter Akshata is married to British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. When we spoke to Indian Express's Kiran Parashar, he told us more about Murthy.
So Sudha Murthy comes from a very humble background. So her father was a surgeon in government hospitals. He served in many places across Karnataka. So she graduated as an engineering student from Hubli's BVB College. And later she started working with Tata Engineering and Locomotives Company, which is called Tata Motors now.
Later, sometime in the 1970s, she is said to have met Narayan Murthy through a common friend. In 1978, the couple tied the knot despite Sudha's family having apprehensions about Murthy, who at the time was an unemployed engineer, heavily influenced by socialist values and looking to start his own business.
So in 1981, she has always mentioned this, that she lent 10,250 rupees money to Narayan Murthy, which then became the Infosys, which today values around $80 billion.
Later, in 1996, Sudha Murthy set up the Infosys Foundation, a non-profit organization, as its chairperson, a role she executed for the next 25 years. The foundation has been recognized for its work in eradicating and rehabilitating Devadasis in North Karnataka in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Now, Murthy's nomination has happened just 2 years after the RSS-affiliated magazine Paanchjanya had accused Infosys and its foundation, then chaired by her, of deliberately trying to destabilize the Indian economy and helping, quote, Naxals, leftists and the Tukde Tukde gang, unquote. Also, in recent years, her increasing presence on public platforms has also seen Sudha Murthy being subjected to intense scrutiny on social media. For example, appearing on Kapil Sharma's comedy show, Sudha Murthy narrated an encounter with an immigration officer.
So when she landed in UK, so an immigration officer refused to believe when she cited her residential address in UK as 10 Downing Street, which is the official residence of her son-in-law, UK Prime Minister. So she said that that the officer response was due to her ordinary saree and simple appearance.
but she later got trolled on social media when users pointed out that her simple woman image flies in the face of her being one of the richest people in the country. In another incident last year, while appearing on the food show Khane Mein Kya Hai, Murthy said that one of her biggest fears while eating outside is that the same spoon may have been used for both vegetarian and non-vegetarian dishes. She also went on to say she doesn't eat even eggs and called herself a pure vegetarian. These comments also divided the internet, with many accusing her of Brahminical superiority. But Murthy remained unruffled during these controversies.
So Sudha Murty, when I spoke to her, when after the Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted that Sudha Murty was being nominated as a Rajya Sabha member, when I spoke to Sudha Murty, she said that it came out as a surprise even for her. She said that she was not expecting it and she was very happy about it. And she also particularly told that this announcement made on Women's Day made it very special. And she also said that she thinks that this is a big platform for her. And also she said that she will do her best in whatever the role that she'll be given.
You were listening to Three Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.